Ready?
We didn't plug it in.
And we can't plug it in now because it'll end the live chat. So just use your loud voice. It's your turn. I did paper.
Oh, did I? I don't even know.
You did scissors.
Welcome to Books We Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Jason.
I'm Nicole.
And today we're relearning how to do this.
We forgot to plug in the mic, so hopefully you can hear us. This is episode 63, where we're going to discuss the first half of The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. If Peggy says we're fine, they've got volume buttons. If this is your first time joining us, please make sure before we get started that this is really the video you intend to watch, because we talk about this covered portion as if you have already also read it, and so we don't want to spoil anything for you if you don't want spoilers. So like and subscribe and all that stuff, share us with your friends, participate in the live chat if you're here with us live. If you're watching this later, enter your comments into the comment section, because we love reliving the books. You can join us off of YouTube on Goodreads, which I have not made the Goodreads for this book yet, so sorry. But you can join us there for an additional chat. We're playlisted, so you can find all of our other books that we've done in the playlist section, and we are on YouTube Music as a podcast.
It's a lot of things.
We're on YouTube. Oh no. But anyways, that's where we are.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah.
Happy belated birthday, Peggy. And
That popped up on my phone.
what?
Birthdays.
Oh.
I knew. I would also like to mention that this is only a 2-week book, so we're reading the first half today, and then next week we're discussing the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And so today we will be putting out a short announcing our next book, because it's time to go ahead and get it, since we're moving through this one so quickly.
Yeah.
Well, without any further ado,
Okay.
let's do it.
What do you think about it so far? Do you like it?
I'm loving it.
Aww.
I really am. I think it's well written, and I always like books that are just like well written, but I feel like it also deals with just a lot of our books deal with like real topics, but sometimes they deal with them in like I'm gonna say like an oblique kind of way, right? Like they get there, but they get there through some other way. This just goes like straight to it. And I kind of see that as like honesty, I guess.
Yeah.
And I like the honesty of the book.
Yeah. This one, especially how it started, Shelby said it's pretty dark. And in the first chapter, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so points for Jason for going back to another book, but whenever she found her dead cat, it reminded me of that time in Deception Point when the guy chucked the dogs out the helicopter. Mm. That one was worse. But, whatever. Let me ask you this. If you woke up dead and found yourself in a library of all possible lives.
Yeah.
Not because you were trying to die, right? But like you woke up dead.
So take away the morbid part of it.
Yeah, take away the morbid part. What do?
I feel like I am living my best possible life.
We're going to talk about that too.
Now.
Mm-hmm.
But in previous times, I had a lot of what Nora had, this thought of, that all these things that I didn't do or choices that I made were regrets. And, I had the want to be able to see what things would be like had I chosen differently.
Yeah.
But there was a mindset shift that I had, and it was about taking responsibility for my actions and prioritizing the things that mattered to me, so that things I didn't do weren't regrets anymore. Mm-hmm. They were choices. Mm-hmm. It was, sure, I would love to do this thing, and that would be a really cool interest, but I only have so much time, and these other things are my priority. Mm-hmm. So while, it sucks that I can't do everything I want to do, it was a calculated choice now. Or now things are calculated choices. So they are not regrets. Mm-hmm. This book is all about mindset.
Definitely.
What about you? If you found yourself in a library,
I'm walking out.
you're not picking up any books?
Let's skip. I didn't know this was going to happen to me. I don't know that what she's saying is going to happen to me will happen to me if I walk out. Let's just move on, right? I'm tired. This is exhausting, right? I agree. Like I really love it. I love that she's like I agree that it's all about mindset. And one of the coolest aspects of this book, I think, is how like the regrets will disappear out of the book of regrets.
Exactly.
When she finds out like, oh, in another life it's not better, right? This really has like some monkey's paw vibes to it in a way. And I feel like I saw that play when I was a kid, or I was in it or something. But like every once in a while that one will pop back up to me. But this, I'm sure this sounds cool to some people, where you could go and like do a bunch of other lives. And like I'm like halfway joking. Like it'd be cool to be like, give me the one where I am a tech mogul, right? Like I don't know, it'd be cool. But like as soon as I found out, like, oh, they're not better, they're just worse in different ways, or they're just bad in different ways, I'd be like, I'm good though.
Right. It's the same in different ways, and it's something
the same in different ways. Yes.
From a Neil Gaiman book, that no matter where you go, you take yourself with you.
Yeah.
And so it's not that we didn't get certain opportunities, or it's not that we made the wrong choice. It's we are who we are,
right,
in every possible life that we live in,
right,
in every possible circumstance. And if you can't be okay with who you are, then you're not going to be okay with your choices.
Right.
And if you can't be honest with yourself about that, you confuse where to put your frustrations. And then and when you think you don't have control, you think you can't fix it.
Yeah. I see this this honestly halfway sounds like a nightmare to me, because so who is it that did like this is the best of all possible worlds thing? Is that Voltaire?
Or
like is that why Spinoza?
Or...
And Voltaire makes fun of Spinoza.
Yeah.
There's something about that's why the cat's name is Voltaire. Right?
Yeah.
Yes, maybe it's Leibniz. Yeah. But so there's something about Voltaire makes fun of, because he has Pancration or whatever the guy's name is. But he in what's the book called? I can't remember Voltaire's book now, but he like makes fun of this guy who walks around in all this suffering and says we live in the best of all possible worlds.
Because it's the one that exists.
Yes, well, because it's the only possible world.
Right.
And so then the conceit of this book is that there are other possible worlds, and then but they're not better. They are different in the same, or same in the different way, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm glad you brought that up. I missed that point. That's why her cat's name is Voltaire, and that
because Voltaire thought that was stupid.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Anyway, but so I very much am into this idea. I don't think this is true, but I don't think it means that you can't act like it's true. The Stoics have this idea, and then Nietzsche calls it eternal return. And the idea is that when you die, you meet a god or a demon, depending on how you view it. And he says, guess what? You're going to do your life over again exactly the same way. Nothing will change, and you will do this for eternity.
Oof, that'll make you think about your decisions.
Love that. I think it's such a because it's so powerful, because it takes this thing where you're like, I wonder what it'd be like in other places, in other worlds, and it twists it around and says, can you live with every decision that you're making, right? Like, and obviously there's bad stuff, right? Like, and obviously you were like, oh, I don't want to do that part again, but some of your life should be at the end such that you want to do it again. And I think it's a very powerful motivator. And if you get to the end of life and you're like, well, I wish I could have done a different one, well, then you have lost the best possible world that you had, because it was the only possible world that we're aware of. And anyway, and so for me it's a nightmare, because it's sort of a flip on it's the inverse of this idea that I really like, that I think is empowering, to have to try to make your choices so that you would do them again.
Peggy says that this book says the quiet parts out loud, and it makes her uncomfortable. And I thought about that as we were coming in to the show today. There are so many things that this book brings up personally that I would love to talk about, but it's not appropriate to talk about. You know what I mean? Because it's the quiet things that happen internally. The mulling over your life's decisions, the mistakes that you've made and facing those. And that's just stuff that you can't talk about on a YouTube channel with, all these people, because it's like, it's just TMI. But this book is a great book to start the new year with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like to think about, because this is the time when most of us are like, here we go, January 1st. Let's do this thing right,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
It's a good book for that.
Well, and several people are saying, well, what if, you can change your choices, but you can't change other people's choices, and you also can't change chance.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, there is a very specific moment in my life that I know of that I think that if I had not randomly done that one thing, I would literally not be right here today.
Hmm.
And it happened like 20 years ago. But because I made this like weird choice that I don't normally do, it started this chain of events
Mm-hmm.
that got me here to a place where I like never intended to live, with a job I never intended to have.
Mm-hmm.
But I trace it all back to this one choice, or this one chance thing
Mm-hmm.
from a strange choice that I made.
Yeah.
And whenever you're playing with an infinite number of worlds, of course, things can be a lot more similar, but things can also be like a lot more different because
Right.
so I was doing the audiobook and I was trying to make sure I hadn't passed the chapter, and there's a chapter in there that's 13 seconds long, and it's like while we're dealing with a polar bear, and I was just like, oh my gosh, she's gonna get eaten by the polar bear, right? But like she might pick a book where she like wakes up and is getting nommed on by a polar bear and dies.
Mm-hmm.
Like that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
No thanks, I'm good.
uh, oh shoot.
If you die in an infinite number of ways, in an infinite number of universes, and an infinite number of times, you literally have a 50-50 chance of picking a book where you are dying right now.
And Mrs. Elm talks about that.
Yeah. And we just haven't picked those yet, but like they're out there.
Yeah.
50-50. It's bad odds. Infinity's not a number to play around with. I'm good.
Let's see. Peggy says that David Hume, who said the self is who we are now, who we perceive ourselves to be. Yeah, Hume did talk about like the perception.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, all those guys did talk about like what's the self, what's the soul, what's our reality, and how do we perceive these things to be.
Can I tag on to that before we keep moving?
Of course.
I've been listening to a book on YouTube this week, and it's one of the points that it makes is that whenever we think about the self, we associate the self not with what is present but what is past. And so like if I say, well, like, who's Nicole? You'd be like, well, I'm this. And you're not telling me what you are right now. You're gonna be like, I volunteer doing these things, and like, but you're not right now. Like you have in the past, and you intend to in the future, but like you're not right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we associate, we don't think of ourselves as this thing right now. We think of ourselves as this thing that is already gone.
Mm.
And like we associate most with that thing, And so like if you ask me, I'd be like, I am a video gamer. I'm not playing video games though.
Right.
But that's the way I think of myself. Or like I read, but I am not reading.
Right.
And I kind of think there's something there, right? Like we think of ourselves as this aggregate of past experiences that are already gone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for us to be present and aware of like who and what we are now. And sometimes and like especially with our main character, what's her name? Nora, yes. She like pines for the past in all these different ways, right?
Yeah.
All these. It's not even that she wishes for a better future. She wishes for a better past.
Yeah.
Because that is how she sees herself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was all.
Yeah. All that reminds me, and I was still thinking of like Hume and which one was Hume. What did you say?
I don't know.
No, but what you said, Hume might have been the one who talked about like when you think about the self, you have to think about the self as a box or something like that. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Well, so one of the other things that was in this book that I'm listening to is about how like our idea of self or me, those are all nouns, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're objects in the same way as phone or computer. And in other languages, the way they talk about the self, or the way they actually talk about most nouns, they can both be a noun and a verb, right? So, it is phone, but it also, it phones or something, And so it's possible in other modes of thinking to think of things as a process and not a state of being.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of, I'm loving this book because I'm thinking about all these things anyway. And, I don't think Nora thinks of herself as like a process.
Right.
She is this damaged thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see yourself as a process, you can see ups and downs, and it's a process of becoming, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we are always becoming until you die.
Right.
And at that point, it's locked down.
And again, going back to the mindset, if you feel like all you are is your past,
Mm-hmm.
and you're frustrated about that past,
Mm-hmm.
then you can never be happy
Right.
where you are
Mm-hmm.
or where you're going, because you're not seeing where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
You're just reacting to everything that has happened to you. It really stresses me out. There, like, you know, like some people have really high expectations about things, and there's like a lot of like anticipation leading up to this thing, and there's a lot of energy and a lot of hype, and then they're always disappointed
Mm-hmm.
by how it pans
Mhm.
out. And I was thinking about that, like, I kind of wish that I could be like that sometimes. I don't have high expectations for
Yeah.
very many things. I don't go into them expecting much at all, and I feel like that keeps me from achieving things because I don't have this expectation. So I really spent some time thinking about, like, what's the difference there, because I'm very content, you know, like
Mhm.
I'm always surprised by what happens, and I learn from things and I grow, but I'm like, I could do more. But then, like, what if I have these high expectations and I'm just always disappointed? And I realized, like, the difference is it's not about having this high expectation. You should be developing goals.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just expect the best.
Right.
Plan for it.
Right.
And then even if it doesn't go completely to plan, because you had a goal, you had a written mark of achievement,
Mm-hmm.
even if you miss it, you see where you missed it and you see where you grew.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's the best way, I think, between both of those things,
Yeah.
between not having any expectations and having too high of expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Make your goals. But Nora doesn't have goals. She doesn't have things that she works towards because she's too busy looking at how it's in her DNA, you know,
Right.
to be disappointed and to fail.
Right.
But like her dad, he didn't have to be mad about his injury and not being
Mhm.
able to play rugby. He could have had a goal of, I'm going to be back to 25% of rugby power
Yeah.
in the next year.
Sure. Sure.
And gone to PT and gone to training and,
Right.
you know, worked his way back up. Instead of being bitter about what he can't do, be excited about what you can do.
Well, and so that's really interesting because I think goals are a way of projecting this. Like, if we're saying that we identify the self most with the past, a goal is a way of projecting the self into the future, right? And so if I was like, hey, tell me about you. Well, like, what are you about? You're like, oh, I'm training for this race, right? Like, it's that thing that you haven't done yet, but you are already identified, right? Like, you are stretching the self to encompass more than just
The past.
that past. And I think it's probably healthy. You know?
What you're working
I
towards.
still think people have trouble being present, but
Right. There's
but
the
that's a
past, there's the
problem.
future, and then what's right
we
now.
don't really do the middle. We the quiet and the stillness of now terrifies us. I
Well, it's
think.
very brief.
Yeah.
It's already passed.
Yeah.
And now we're in the new one.
Yep. And I think that's weird to people. But you know, I think you make a good point. You know that everything you said, I agree.
I had to spend some time on that.
Oh, yeah?
Because it kind of panics me sometimes when I think
Mhm.
about it. Yeah, 'cause I don't know. It just does. Because,
Well,
you know, am I just content because I'm just a, like, happy little monkey? You know?
That's okay.
And is that okay?
Yeah, it's okay. It's probably better than not. But also, like, you know, I like to say all the time, like, don't get excited until it's time. I say that a lot.
Right.
And because I see all these people who get hyped for something and then it's not what they wanted, and then
Right.
you know, but it's okay to be excited when it's time. But it's that excitement about what something is before it is, I feel is a misplaced emotion. You know, it's like a passion, I suppose. It's not real. It doesn't belong here. It belongs later. You know, and I think a lot of like suffering is caused by being hung up on the past, but also on the future.
Mhm.
And so if you're, you know, like think of a child who is excited about Christmas and it's a week ahead of time, and they are just like in mental agony because they can't open their presents yet because they're so excited for it, right? Like that happens,
Mhm.
and we as adults do that too. You know, just let it go. Just let it go.
Yeah. So in the chat, let's see, Peggy mentioned that the part where she kind of assessed, like, if one life sucks, they're all going to suck.
Mm-hmm.
That point in the book where she was in the library, Nora was in the library, and she was like, I mean, this is just, all of my lives are going to be like this.
Yeah.
had I not been part of a book club
Mhm.
and felt like I had a responsibility to the book club, I think I would have put the book down at that point.
Really?
Because that makes me want to cry.
I'm here for it. I think I find like I'm weird, right? And like we've talked about this before, but like I have this like semi-nihilistic approach about a lot of things that I find like really liberating. And the idea that like no life is better than this one I have, and I'm not a fan of this one, that makes me like hypothetically, not actually, right? That makes me at peace because like I know that I can't escape to some better place, and there is no better place than here because there is no other place than here. And you know, I've told this story before, but like I knew somebody once who cried because they didn't live in Harry Potter world, and they couldn't cast Harry Potter spells. It wasn't Nicole, even though that is a good guess.
I'm glad that you said that. I wouldn't have even thought it was me, but other people might.
But like, and I remember like looking at this person being like, "You're upset about this? Like, it's not possible. It's not possible."
Yeah.
And I've thought about that a lot, and like that was like a dumb conversation I had ages ago, but it's really stuck with me because how many of us wish for Harry Potter world, right? Nora does. She wishes for a world where she was a successful glaciologist and a swimmer and this and that and the pub owner and married to Dan and you know, and that's not real, and it causes her, you know, it causes her pain. We've talked a lot about on this channel about like fear and how fear, you know, fear is the mind killer, especially when we're talking about Dune, and then we've talked about every book since then. But and fear is in the mind, and it's also an anticipation, right? In the same way as these other things, and it's this wishing for another world that I think is really damaging. And we're all capable of it, and we all do it.
Yeah.
And it hurts us.
Yeah. And you know, and that's the beautiful thing about like books, right? You can step into some other world for a minute, but you have to come back. You have to come back, and you do have to own your own life.
Yeah.
You have to be your main character, you know, and you got to make those choices and find ways to be okay with them. Oh gosh, you keep saying things, and I'm like, I have a thing to say about that, and I forget.
Well, tell me to stop talking because
No,
I feel like I'm doing it.
I don't want to tell you to stop talking because you're saying great things. You know, okay, so Shelby says that, you know, she would like to cut some chapters out of the books. And sometimes I think about that. You know, there are some things that I wish that I could cut from the chapters of my life, or some chapters I wish I could cut from the book of my life.
Gotcha.
And
Sure.
And when I really think about it, though, I wonder how I would be if I cut those chapters out. You know, because you know we're the combination of our experiences, and we understand the world the way we do because of what we've been through, and I mean, for better or worse. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I can't think of anything that I would actually cut from the book of my life because I'm afraid of who I would become if those things hadn't happened.
We could very easily write this story, but flip it and say, okay, in this library, what we're doing is we're chopping out parts of your story and seeing how that changes things in the future. And it would be just as crazy, right? It would absolutely be just as crazy. And you hear people say stuff like that, you know, but then like, but you wouldn't be who you are now. And if who you are now is not good, all right, I'm on board, right? Like, but we can't. So now we need to change the you we got, you know?
Well, yeah. If the you that you are now is not a you are happy with, that's your signal to decide to make some changes. And I think Nora is seeing that at this point in the book, right? She's broken the library. We've seen that there's a system failure in the library because she's changing her perception of life and reality in her own world. And I think that that's where this book is going. Yeah. Is that she has to change the way she sees things. Yeah.
But I mean, like, you know, what if you were saying, like, what if you wanted to say, like, I wish I could cut this relationship out of my life, but because you didn't have those experiences in that relationship to help you navigate this current relationship, that this current relationship may just be that last relationship because you hadn't learned anything, or like you wouldn't be the same person you are, so you wouldn't be in it, or you would be terrible, or like we could just go and go and go, you know. I don't know. I don't really wish for other lives. I don't think I do that.
Yeah.
but I definitely understand that other people do,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes me sad.
When I was at a point in my life where I couldn't see a way out
Mm-hmm.
of where I currently was, it was a dark time, my friends. I did spend time lost in thought, thinking about what if I made this choice instead? What would my life look like?
Mm-hmm.
But thinking of things that way and imagining my life on a different trajectory gave me the strength to eventually
Mm-hmm.
make the change that
Yeah.
needed to be made. But it was a hard turn of the boat,
Yeah.
like in the most like think of what it takes to like turn the Titanic, right? Like that is metaphorically like what my brain was doing. It's hard to change your perception of that, and especially, like in Nora's case, this isn't just a matter of she's just a person just doing her things. Like there's also, and like she says, everyone has, but like there's some mental health um issues going on there too, and things that she really needs to work on, and things that she's gonna have to be very aware of in all her possible lives. And I think it's interesting. So, and we've only seen like what 3 lives or 4 trajectories. In all of them, she has seen the scars on her arm.
Yeah. Yep.
And again, wherever you are, you take yourself with you. You have to address who you are and what you want in order to be happy.
Mm-hmm. I teach the serenity prayer a lot just because it's useful, right? And what I do. And so it's grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I teach it is, I like to say, well, so what are the things you can't change? And people will say all kinds of stuff. They're like, you can't change your family, and they can't change whatever. And the answer is everything. You can't change anything except for the way that you think, not your thoughts, because those come and go, and they happen to you. But the way that you think, the structure within those thoughts happen, and the way that you act. That's it. That's all you can change. And whenever you are at peace about the things you can't change, that being your past, that being your future, that being all those things, and you can affect some of those things, but you can't change them. And you affect them by changing the way that you think and the way you act right now, right? And that will change your future. And whenever you sit down and realize that those are the only things you 100% control, your life gets a lot more effective.
Yeah.
Because you can like what you're saying, right? So I think, and it's the first part is, grant me the courage, because it's terrifying to realize that, like, okay, if you want it to be different, it's on you now. Because if you wait for somebody else to do it, it may never happen, or something, they don't care, and it's hard to realize that, like, okay, now I have to get up and do it. And I feel like the imagination and imagining where there are these other worlds, right? It's the word I'm going to use is regression, but that's not quite right? But it's a dissociation, and like I think that, but it's a hiding from the world instead of actively engaging in it. And when you come out of that dissociation, you're still here.
Yeah. As Carl Sagan says, when you look out into the cosmos, you realize that there is no one else coming to save us from ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, who would be your Mrs. Elm? Who's your librarian? Be your mom. It's all about choices.
It's probably my mom. And then I'd pick a book and she'd be like,
I have been thinking about her this whole time.
Really?
Yes.
My mom? Okay.
The Mrs. Elm reminded me of the Doctor and the Old Man and What Dreams May Come. It's an interesting question, though. Says Peggy. What Dreams May Come? That has Robin Williams in it, doesn't it?
Interesting. You mentioned Neil Gaiman earlier, and this definitely gives me Neil Gaiman vibes.
Yes.
And most authors can't do that.
But it's the spinning or the moving library, the very mechanical, but it's not attached to anything. Right. So like it doesn't make any sense how it's doing it.
Like you understand how it works, but not why, kind of. Yeah.
Kind of Kafka-esque, where like it seems dreamlike and the elements are a little nonsensical, but.
and everybody just kind of accepts it, right? Because
Yeah.
realistically, if I woke up in a library after I died and somebody was like, "Hey, what life do you want to live?" Like, what are y'all talking about?
Oh. Oh man, this is really good. Oh yeah, someone previously mentioned, hey, there's some chess elements up in this book.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Is there chess?
I missed her metaphor about the rook approaching things head on,
Yeah.
and so people miss.
Well, so
Judge it.
because the rook only can move straight, right?
Yeah.
And so it's very easy to get out of the way.
That's the castle head.
What?
Is that the castle head? The blockhead, the
Yeah.
rook.
Yes, the castle. Yes. And so, but it is true in most of my games of chess that like in the end it's the rooks that are left and it's the rooks that get you. So.
Did anyone think about whether Nora deserved to go to this library when she chose to end her life versus someone who accidentally died or was sick?
Yeah. So like, does everybody go here? And like, why? You know,
and what if this is just what's at the end of the tunnel to help you feel at peace?
Yeah.
And keep you from coming back as a ghost.
Yeah.
Haunting and unhappy and dragging your chains.
Yeah.
So maybe everyone goes through this, but in Nora's, since we're seeing Nora's point of view, it's because she chose to end her life and whatever.
That would make sense.
The Book of Regrets is scary, man.
Yeah.
That's scary. But I love the way that the story has set it up to make her realize that most regrets are perceived regrets.
Sure. Well, they are. I mean, like, yeah.
All regrets are perceived.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? But like, that once you really dive in and look at them, they aren't things that you should regret.
Right.
They were just your choice.
Yeah.
Or you had nothing to do with it. Like, okay, the time she came back and her cat was immediately dead.
Yeah. It was rough.
Again, Tom almost put the book back down.
The you know, but yeah, like how do you know? Because like a regret is saying, if I had chosen this thing, it would be better. But like you don't know that.
Right.
You don't know that.
Yeah.
You know how like there's like a word for like homesickness for places you've never been to?
Yes.
I wonder if there's like a word for like regrets for things that you didn't do, right? Like
Sure there is.
no, but like regrets, not for regrets of actions you did not take because you chose not to take them, but actions that weren't yours to take that weren't taken, right?
I'm sure there's like a German word for
Like
it, right?
I regret that my father didn't choose this thing before I was ever alive, or something, or something.
Right, yeah.
Like
there's got to be Finnish.
Yeah, you know, I don't know.
Sorry, I don't mean to be offensive, but that's what I hear every Finnish word to be.
It's okay. We don't show in the Nordic countries.
That's blueberries and like
Never ends.
Blueberries.
Okay. I don't know. Know what you're talking about.
What do they speak in Belgium or whatever? Or maybe it's in French. Ridiculous. Anyways, sorry. This book makes me think of It's a Wonderful Life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's, you know, he's very frustrated because all of the things that he dreamed of doing, he didn't get to do because he ended up staying back and taking care of the town and all that stuff. And again, at the end of it, he realizes, well, he chose to stay because his priorities are all these people that he loves. And when you realize that, then you're no longer angry about it because you realize that's your choice.
Yeah. So Peggy says she tries to see learning experiences and not regrets, and that makes me think of it this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
In your life, you have had real suffering, sure, and whenever you have those regrets, you are just dragging that suffering with you, you know.
Yes.
And we do this with a lot of things, you know.
It's the ghost chains.
Yeah.
And the regrets.
Yeah.
Sure.
That was it.
That's the point of this library, so that the ghosts don't come back with the chains. Just die peacefully.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the Australia thing. That was weird.
Yeah. She was like now a pothead, like hanging out, and I kind of expected for them to tell us that she had been driving the car that killed her friend.
Yeah.
I think that would have been like a powerful choice, but
the point is that she doesn't do anything. You know, she just coasts along and falls into things and does what other people tells her to do, and that's it. She swam because her dad told her to swim.
Yeah.
She
Opened a pub
stopped
'cause
being
Dan-
in the band because her fiance told her to stop being in a band. Opened a pub because her husband wanted to open a pub.
Mhm.
Went to Australia because her friend wanted to go to Australia.
Mhm.
You know, like, what does she want to do?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you think that she's going to pick a life to stay with from the book or from the library?
Part of me hopes she just dies. Like I think that's the way the book should end, or because it would make like the whole thing make sense to me. Like this is what happens to you, and then you can go and be at peace. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because like what happens when she dies in the next one she picks? We do this again, right? Like I need some finality here.
Well, something's happening, and she's breaking the library. We
Yeah.
know that there was
Yeah.
a system error, because she felt nothing but disappointment for all the other books, is what Peggy thought. But I think the system failure happened. Well, now I don't remember, but I definitely thought it was something breaking because the way her mindset was changing.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I definitely do though think it's possible that she picks a life and stays in it.
Mm.
I also think it's possible, and would not be surprised if she gets like resuscitated in her current life and is like, "This is worth living. I can be all of those people I have been, but I can be it here
Mm.
because this is the best of all possible worlds." Or
Well, how
something.
old is she? She's only like
She young.
20 something,
Yeah.
right? Girl, go back to school. Go be a glaciologist if that's what you want to do.
Uh-uh.
I love it when she was like, "This polar bear is scared. Get me out of here. Go back to the library. Go back to the library."
And then still stayed.
Yeah. Because it wasn't disappointment, it was fear,
Fear.
and those are different things.
I don't know. But yeah, there's I mean, in my mind, there's an infinite number of ways this could end, but I picked three of those are the three ways I think it'll end: death, resuscitation, or she stays in the life. And I don't like that one. I don't think she should pick another life and stay in it. I feel like that's antithetical to what the author is trying to tell us.
Mhm.
You know, but like
Yeah.
that it doesn't serve the point of the book.
Mm-hmm.
But death without regret does, and integrating these, realizing that you are that you are the possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and like, okay, so each book that she's picking a life to start from that point on, she's tackling that new life with all the experiences of her current former life that she tried to leave. You know, so she's like only appreciating being alive for the first time with this polar bear thing because of everything that she's been through.
Right.
Plus now polar bears.
Yeah.
You know, so, and Mrs. Elm said that like if she chooses to stay in that life, she'll kind of merge into it and
Right.
forget the previous life
Right.
and have the memories of this current track that she's on. But
If-
that would change how you feel
Yeah.
about that life.
Well, yeah, like how it was like 50-50 merge, and you only get like 50% of the benefit from your past life.
I
What
don't
if-
know. The
if-
lens through which you're seeing this life is changing.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't seem good.
Yeah.
If another Nora had died and gone to the library, would she be able to appreciate it and learn? Is this the only Nora that can use the library to her benefit, right? If Pothead Nora died and showed up in the library, would she just like, okay, I'm ready for death now?
Yeah.
If businesswoman swimmer Nora showed up, would she test every single book and get lost in like the infinity
Mhm.
and never come out? You know, like maybe this Nora is the only one that can really, like, why are we getting this Nora and not another Nora? Because she's the one who can use the library and
well,
learn
they've
from it.
clearly all tried to die by suicide.
That's true. So far.
So I wonder if those other lives have been to the library.
Interesting.
I do gotta say, side note, I was scrolling through my YouTube like recommended videos, see if there's anything I need to get caught up on. And just very quickly, I was like, "Oh, what a cozy image of a library!" And it was our, it was our thumbnail. So it looks great. Good job.
Thank you.
Returning to the library reminds Shelby of the Wheel of Time test for Aes Sedai.
Do you remember that? It's the
Yes.
three doors. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good reference. And that was one where,
Gold Star Shelby, even though we didn't read that.
and I feel like that happens differently in the books than it does in the show. But you don't remember in the show, she basically like has an entire life
It was
in
really
the span of a
I
second.
cried.
That was rough. Yeah. That was a good one.
Cried. So far, I like the show better than the book.
I mean, the books are tough.
It's just
The show is really good. I'm not going to argue about that.
yeah, the books are just a grind.
They have changed a lot of things. This is not about Wheel of Time, but they've changed a lot of things, and I approve, honestly. I approve.
Maybe libraries only exist for people who choose to die, and if
Mhm.
Olympian Nora also ended up
Yeah.
in the library.
You know, and maybe there's like a collapse of the wave function in some way, and she wakes up and finds out that she's, you know, different. Like it's a different root life or something. You know.
Yeah. I don't know. I do look forward to finishing. It is a quick read, so I imagine I'll finish it today.
Yep.
Any final guesses, thoughts, or?
No, this one it was surprisingly philosophical,
Mm-hmm.
and I enjoy that. I feel like I'm back on my home turf. I have things to say. You know, the intersection of philosophy and psychology are a good place for me because I feel like I can talk about those.
Philosophy.
The intersection of falafels and
I would love an intersection of falafels.
we can make that happen. It's all about choices.
Falafel. Or she's dead, and those antidepressants have serious hallucinating side effects. Oh, she's not dead. Sorry, she's not dead.
Yeah, that's
Those
possible.
Antidepressants are causing hallucinations. I do feel like, since we're talking about a book with like suicide and depression and stuff like that, you know, we should give the socially responsible thing about, like, you know, if you're thinking about hurting yourself, you should like call somebody, talk it out.
And if you're wondering if you're at that point, you are.
You are. Yeah.
Don't play games, right? So,
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about. Shoot, I always do this. Like, oh, we're wrapping up. I'm like,
It's gonna happen 2 more times.
It's just because we're Southern. It's our Southern goodbye. In all of her lives, she has the same fears of disappointing her brother.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are we
because
so
she is her, right?
wrapped up thinking that our choices affect other people's happiness?
Oh, this is me. Why are you talking to me? I'm like this. I don't know. It's I think there's probably like a deep biological answer to that, but I'm not sure that's like a satisfying answer. But like if the tribe leaves you, you're screwed. You know.
Yeah, but he's not that wrapped up in making sure she's happy.
Yeah. But like some people are just like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's probably something deep from our childhood.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. That was.
But no, you're right.
I feel like I had more to say about that, but then.
It's something we should all work on.
It's tough to be a pleaser.
Well, you can't. You know, if you do the best you can and people are still not happy, then you have done the best you can.
Right.
And that's kind of where you have to be.
You've got to be able to let.
If you've made and like this circles back around to my idea that like there's no right choices. You just pick like the least wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like you just
you
do the best you can, and if people aren't happy about it, you really can't control their happiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they might have been happy in this other world with the other. They might have been unhappy with the other choice you made. Some people are unhappy. I don't know if you know this. Some people are unhappy.
What a bummer.
Yeah, it's sad. Some people are only happy if they are unhappy, and those people confuse me.
But then, but that's kind of what, I don't know. Isn't that how we see Nora at the beginning?
Only happy if she's unhappy.
But I mean, she's not happy, but like, it's like her only state of being is just, I don't know. She's just so far into it, she can't like unwallow.
Well, I mean, there's definitely like an element of self-fulfilling prophecies with this, right? When you see yourself as a loser, right, in like the most clinical use of this word, right? If you're like, I am a loser, then you start making choices that losers would make, right? If you see yourself as, you know, a winner, you start making choices that you think winners would make because you think that, right? It's very like Stanford prison experiment, right? The role that you have assigned yourself, you start making these choices based on that. And there's definitely an element of that to Nora. You know, she think not that she's a loser, but maybe that she's a failure. So she makes failure choices because like that is what you want. That is what she is. Not because anybody has told. You do run into this with like kids, right? If you tell a kid over and over and over again, like you're an idiot, they start making idiot choices, right? They start acting like they're stupid because you've told them that they're stupid, and not because they actually are, right? But they are falling into this role that has been assigned to them. But we can also assign these things to ourselves. Nora has told herself so many times that something's wrong with her, that she's an idiot or whatever, that she's just started doing these things. She's following the role. You know?
Yeah. Peggy has two things that she wants to say. First, she went on social media and saw everyone else being happy. Social media is a big lie. It's toxic for people in a phone. Absolutely. It also makes it seem like everyone's doing stuff, but you know what they're doing? They're posting pictures of that one thing that they did that one time.
Yeah.
They're currently sitting on the couch eating a bag of potato chips.
Yeah.
And maybe spent 1 hour editing the video, or you know, like it's just not what you think it is. And then second, in that same chapter, Peggy got real Pixar vibes from the sentence, quote, "Happy moments can turn into paid given time." Pain given time. But is that pain bad?
Yeah. So yeah, and that's a good question. Pain is not bad.
Right.
Pain is normal and is part of life and is unpleasant. Is not bad. Yeah. It is our perception of pain that is. Because like I feel all kinds of pain that is good pain, right? Like if you are in the gym, you might feel pain. Like hopefully not joint popping, right, leg breaking pain, but like you feel a certain level of pain, and that is the pain of growing. You know, when you're training for things physically, you become used to pain, and seeing it not as a bad thing. And
well, then like kind of one way that I've started thinking about pain, like it's an indication of where you need to grow, right? So like,
yes,
you know, I actually have like some physical differences, like one side of the body to the other. And when I feel pain in one spot, that's a reminder to me that I need to strengthen something because something's weak and it's overcompensating. And, you know, like, so it's a warning to yourself of like, hey, there's something going on here.
Yeah. It's never the strong parts that get you, right? It's I also often at my own job will tell the story of Achilles because he was invincible and had a heel that was the only part of him that was weak, and he decided to wear sandals.
Right. He was also kind of a titty baby, and he cried to his mom a lot.
You know what? I'm a big fan of Achilles. And the point being is it's the heel. And so if you know that you have a heel, you should strengthen that thing, right? You should put on a boot or whatever, right? Like if he wore a metal boot, he'd be fine. I'm just saying. But yeah, but pain is good because it shows us, where we are weak so that you can strengthen those things.
Or at least compensate for those things, right?
Well, and I do this thing where like if I'm afraid of something, I try to do it immediately because fear is a type of pain, I think, and that's if I'm afraid of something, that's like the sure sign that like I should be doing that right now. I was gonna say something. She was saying this is my last point, and then I will stop. Talking about like a line in the thing that made her think of something else. I really appreciated the conversation about Dunbar's number. I thought that was fun, where they were talking about how most tribes are only like 150 people, and they did the study, and if you know more than 150 people, like whatever, unless you're from Kent.
Right.
We're all antisocial in Kent, and I just thought that was hilarious.
That was funny.
Very fun.
Yep. All right.
Well, I feel like we've had a very heavy conversation for a random Sunday morning.
Yeah, welcome back to the book club.
Yeah, welcome
2024.
back. Cool.
All right.
So if you're interested in knowing what our next book is, go ahead and check out our short that will hopefully be out in the next few minutes, where we will announce the next read, which hopefully won't be depressing, but I now have a feeling will be. See y'all next time.
Happy reading.